What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. And we've got an episode today. It's going to end up being just a Deck Talk Podcast chat with Norman and Colin Burnett. And because we had Fletcher set up to come on, and we just got off the phone with him, and he had some unexpected things come up that he could not make it tonight. So, but with that being said, we're just going to chat some fishing today. What about that, Norman?
That's right, man. That's right, Colin. But how about our intro, dude? That just wants to make you get up and dance, doesn't it, dude? But
Well, I'll
anyway,
just tell you this:
woo, man,
when
feel
it
like
was
rocking in my
going,
chair.
yeah. Well, everybody's seen you dancing in your
Oh, I
chair.
know
Just
that. I'm watching myself dance in my chair. But hey, man, before we get started with this thing, let's rock and roll this thing tonight. But yeah, man, we're definitely gonna be rescheduling Fletcher pretty soon. But man, we got some business to take care of first. We got to pay some bills right now. Let's talk about our sponsor for tonight's episode, man. Tonight's episode, this is brought to you by Bruiser Baits. Baits made by fishermen for fishermen. Family owned and operated. They continuously strive to produce the best premium quality baits that are proven to put fish in your boat day in and day out, helping the beginner angler catch more fish and the season tournament angler put more cash in the pocket. From soft plastics to jerk baits, crank baits, flat out tungstens, apparel, and a whole lot more. Fish the best baits made right here in the USA. Check them out. Check out their full selection of baits, tackle, apparel, and accessories. Go to www.bruiserbaits.com. And don't forget, use that discount code DECKTALK10. Get that savings at checkout with our discount code. Again, that is bruiserbaits.com. And don't forget, make sure to use that discount code DECKTALK10 every time you will make an order on Bruiser Baits website.
that's right, guys. Man, you definitely do want to go check that out. It is phenomenal baits. So speaking of some phenomenal baits, man, Norman, we went out today and we done pretty decent today.
Not
Uh,
too bad, not too bad at all, man. We
and
had a good time, and why don't we're gonna let you tell them about the bait we were using today and the color that we're using.
well, I don't know about talking about the color of it, but what I will say, guys, is I've been wanting to have uh, a soft plastic made in this color that I've like, man, I know I've caught fish using uh, multiple different worms that has had these kind of colors into it. So I wanted it. So I combined about three different worms into one to make the colors that I was wanting to make. I hollered at Steve Dial. Well, actually, when we had him on the podcast, Norman, and
Yep, yep.
I was telling him, I said, "Hey, I've got an idea on some baits. I guarantee you, it's going to catch fish." And Norman, was this the first time that we got them out on the boat
This was the first time we had them out. Yep.
and was able to do some fishing with this bait.
Fourth cast you made
Fourth
today.
cast in, and we were putting something over the gunnel,
Yep.
brother.
Exactly, and like I said, we didn't catch any giants today, but they were chewing it, and that's always a good thing. You know, the bigs will come as long as you're catching fish. The bigs will come. It's a little bit of a tough day condition wise too. You know, we were on the water till about noontime, but it was a little bit of a damp, dreary morning, so we didn't have the best of conditions for to get a really good bite, but
Yeah.
we did catch some, so that was a good thing. And I guarantee you, Colin, we are going to be calling Mr. Steve Dial. We're going to be twisting his arm left and right to try to get that color added to the repertoire of colors that he has out right now for the big stick, the 5-inch stick worm. We actually had them made in uh, the 6-inch stick bait is what we had them made in when we had Steve make a set for make a batch for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be twisting
I,
Steve's arm to try to
I,
get him to add that to the rubber. And that bait, that color is going to catch him. And the thing I like about that color, Colin, is that it's not only a color that's going to work up here. It's not going to work only in Florida. It's going to work everywhere you fish it. You
I,
know, it's going to work anywhere you go.
And saying that was the main reason, Norman, that I wanted um, to have to see like if it could be done,
Yeah,
and to have the multiple colors and stuff um, that I know that I have caught
yeah,
fish everywhere that I've gone using those colors,
yeah.
and I wanted to just see what if we combined them, Norman, and what would happen, and it
Yeah.
showed out today. I
I tell you
mean,
what, when I went down there in February, March, I took a trip down to the facilities down there and you had gave me a sample color
yeah,
uh, of
of
another
what I wanted, the
what you
base
wanted
color,
done.
yeah,
I handed it to Steve, and I was kind of thinking he was gonna be able to hang on to the sample color and make it up and send them out to us. And Steve goes, "Hold that thought. You got a few minutes to wait around." So Steve popped us out. I think there was like 35 or 40. He popped us out in a matter of 10, 15 minutes.
yeah,
Was able to bring him back with us, but I mean, just the perfect match to what we wanted. This color came out to be.
yeah,
So I think it's going to be the bomb. I think it really is going to be the bomb.
yeah, and I mean, though, let's with this bait. I mean, we caught several fish on it today. Uh, I pretty much had it in my hand the whole time.
Yep.
You were throwing a little bit of everything, but I mean, and I was surprised though, like with the cloudy conditions or the fog that we had. I mean, we had thick fog that stayed around pretty
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
until we left,
Yeah. The thick fog
and
stayed almost over top of us till right when we got off the water, if not longer. I mean, noontime. I mean,
right.
you couldn't see. The visibility was poor.
Yeah, and which it kind of surprised both of us, um, because we were talking about like with that fog and how like cloudy it was looking and stuff. We were really surprised that you really wasn't able to get too much going on with the top water bite.
No, and quite honestly, I didn't throw. I had the Dirty Dancer, which also, guys, you got to check out the Dirty Dancer. If you like throwing a topwater walking style bait, you got to check out the Bruiser Baits. It's a brand new topwater bait that Bruiser Bait just released not too long ago. It's called their Dirty Dancer,
Yeah,
but it is an awesome, awesome walking bait. I had it tied on, but I didn't throw it a lot because I was waiting for it to start seeing some fish busting up after bait fish. Because normally when you get conditions like that, typically, that's prime for seeing them chasing bait around
yeah, which we
and
did. We
pulling fish.
seen a lot of bait fish so today.
Seen a lot of bait fish, just didn't see any bass underneath them or any bass pushing them up, which and we both talked about that. It's kind of odd for the conditions we have because usually those are prime conditions for seeing, bass busting
Yeah,
after the bait fish are on the top, but we didn't see any of that. And I think I made a comment to you that might go to why the bite was a little bit more, I don't want to say tough today, which it was.
yeah,
We caught fish, but we didn't catch the numbers that we thought we'd catch. And it that kind of told me right there, being that the conditions were right for seeing some top water action, and we didn't even see that. So that
yeah.
kind of told me right there that it was probably just the conditions was set up for a rather tough day in general.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll just have to get in contact with our buddies and stuff and kind of see how they did today as well.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was kind of tough for us. We are having a cold front coming in tonight, so I was kind of expecting them to kind of wanting to start to feed a little bit prior to, but we're right in the middle of spawn, guys, and um, they're not feeding anyways during the spawn. So or the ones that are up spawning at the
yeah.
moment are not feeding.
Well, and that's another thing too. I was kind of surprised. We basically went to some known bedding areas,
Yeah.
but we didn't see a lot of fish that were laying up right now.
Mm,
So we didn't see a lot of bed. I mean, we seen a few beds here and there, but we really didn't see any bedding fish. You know,
Mm.
we seen some bucks roaming the shore, roaming back and forth. Didn't see any females anywhere, but we didn't see anything actually on beds, which I would have thought, you know, we would have seen at least some beds here and there if there wasn't a lot of them around.
Yeah, but our water conditions, the water clarity, really did not help us at all on that aspect
No,
either.
well, we had a lot
Um,
of rain yesterday morning. We had like 5 hours of rain,
yeah,
which helped mud, especially the back of some of the sloughs and stuff like that,
yeah,
where you normally go, where you'd see the more prominent bedding areas. It kind of muddied it up, and I think that had a lot to do with the 4 or 5 hours of rain, and some of that rain yesterday was driving. Only lasted like
yeah,
4 or 5 hours between like 8 o'clock and one or two in the afternoon, but some of it was driving, so I think it
yeah,
muddied some of that water up quite a bit.
yeah. I agree with you there, Norman.
Right now, you know, with the water temperature and this time of the year, there's not a lot of submerged like hydrilla all dies off this time of the year. So where the hydrilla normally would be in the back of these pockets, you know, come like July when the hydrilla starts growing up, it starts filtering the water system again once the hydrilla starts growing in. Well, now there's no hydrilla because the winter conditions. All that hydrilla dies off, so the filtration system during the winter time just kind of goes away until it starts growing back.
Yeah. Well, let's while we're talking about spawning fish, Norman, what is it that you look for? Like, if you're looking for bedding fish, what is it that you would look for if you was like, let's just say, let's go out on Chickamauga, and what are you looking for to where maybe somebody that's watching, that's out of the 400 right now that we got on here, if they don't know what to look for, um, where are you going? Don't give like locations and stuff like that, but just kind of what part of the body of water are you looking for? Are you looking for back of sloughs? Are you looking for uh, like 2/3 in or at the points or what? And what kind of bottom are you looking for?
For bed and fish, you always want to look for hard bottom. You're never going to find bed and fish in a soft bottom, muddy bottom, murky bottom. Look for hard bottom. Typically, myself, as this time of the year, during the bedding season, the water levels usually are down. You know, especially like on Chickamauga, you get the winter pool, which the winter pool they drop the water level tremendously.
Yeah,
It's actually up a little bit more now than
we're
the,
2 feet below summer pool right now.
right. So it's up from what it normally is this time of the year, just because we've been getting a little bit of rain and stuff, but it's still way down from what it's going to be summertime. But typically, I will look about halfway into the sloughs and on back, or the coves, the
That's
cuts.
where you'll start, right?
That's where I'll start. Is about halfway back. If I'm just targeting sight fish,
Yeah,
and I don't want to waste any time, I will basically start halfway back.
right.
You know, now you could always start. You can catch fish at the points on the way in by randomly casting, but if you're just targeting sight fish, where you don't want to waste a lot of time and make a lot of casts getting to the areas you actually want to target, start about halfway back. This time of the year, in a lot of cases, you can't go all the now. If the water level holds up in some of these sloughs, you get a little bit deeper slough. The further you go back, the more prominent you're going to find. You know, that's one thing with bass. Bass are very smart. Bass are smart creatures. And if you think about this for a second, especially a kind of a longer, deeper slough that goes back a ways, most guys that go into these sloughs looking for fish, they're going to go in. They might go in halfway and they'll go down a little bit, but if they don't see anything right away, usually they turn around, they go to the next one down. I tell you what, the fish know that. That's why a lot of these fish, you're not going to find the more prominent beds until you get further pushed back. And I'll give you a good example of that. And this isn't in Tennessee. This is back in my old stomping grounds in Florida. Um, there's a couple lakes that I actually guide on down there, Lake June and Lake Placid. Well, Lake June actually has a major canal system that goes back, and in this canal system, it has a main canal that goes straight back, and you're going to find about 12 fingering canals that go off that canal that's loaded with boat docks on them.
Yeah,
Okay, now. During this time of the year, the bedding time of the year down in Florida, if you go into them, the fish bed very heavily in them canals. But now here's the thing: when you go in them canals, and it's funny because I guide on lakes, so I spend a lot of time. You know, sometimes when I was guiding full time down there, 5 6 days a week, I'm spending on these lakes, so I'm watching. And it's kind of funny when you're watching these guys, especially like there's a lot of weekend local club tournaments at Fisher's Lake. So if I'm fishing like on a Friday, I'm watching guys practice that's out of town, not from the area, from like Sarasota, different surrounded clubs and stuff. But they'll go in about the first two or three canals, and if they don't see anything laying up, they're gonna not waste time. They're gonna go right back out, back into the main lake and start fishing again. Here's the thing: and the bass are so smart. And what you're going to find is them bass, you could go to the first canal, the first finger and second finger, and all the way back to like the fifth finger canal back. And you might see a random bed here and there. But when you get to that sixth finger canal back, you're going to start to see, about, uh, you're just going to see an abundance of beds starting from
Yeah,
that canal back. And that's the reason them fish know where the pressure comes from, where the pressure is not. And they know if they get themselves back all the way back in the canals, they're not going to see that fishing pressure. Now, how them fish know that, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
But that's how smart them fish are, and there's no other rhyme and reason for it. Because I
Yeah,
watch it all day long. A boat will come in, fish the first couple, they don't see nothing, they go right back out. But if they were to actually stay, working themselves back, they will. Them boats that go back out, it's going to see that once they get down to about that six finger canal, they're going to see beds out the tail. And
yeah,
the bigger females will push themselves as far back as they can because they know they're out of that pressure. And the same thing kind of up here with the sloughs and cuts. Them bigger fish is going to push themselves back further back into the sloughs where they know, the chances of somebody taking the time to just work that whole thing back there is pretty much slim.
right, right. And another thing though, Norman, is uh, people think that you're thinking, all right, bass are bedding, and so they're going to be 1 to 2 foot, and that's not the case a lot of the times.
No, I mean, I've I've seen bass bedding as deep as 12 foot of water.
Yeah.
You and don't think they have to bed around a shoreline or an edge.
Mm-mm.
I've seen bass bed shallower bodies of water that has submerged vegetation. I've seen bass bed 2 miles offshore. If it's a lake that has cover offshore, I've seen bass bed in hydrilla in 4 or 5 foot of water 2 miles off the bank.
Yeah.
But I've seen bass bed on an edge that has a nice, steep incline to it. I've seen them bedding in 10, 12 foot of water. They don't have to be bedding in that 2 foot of water.
Yeah.
And another thing, too, of course, you always want to look for that. And again, a good polarized set of glasses you have to have. That's a necessity. When you're trying to spot these bedding fish, you have to have something. You have to wear something that you could actually see really good through that peripheral vision through the water column to be able to spot them. But look for that light spot. Uh, you're always looking for that light spot, and if you find a light spot, eh, you're gonna you're gonna see that fish moving back and forth. Typically she's either going to be laying over the white spot, and they're real easy to pick out because you're going
Yeah.
to look for that light spot in on the bottom, but you're going to see that darker spot just kind of moving back and forth across it. She's not going to never go too far from it though. She's always going to be right in around where that light spot is. But here's another thing too. I've actually, if you know what tilapia beds are, you don't get tilapia up here. You get them down further south. But carp's about the same way. Tilapia build a bed that almost looks like you dropped a cannon bottle in the middle of it. If you're wade fishing and you step in a tilapia bed, you're gonna go from about knee deep to almost your shoulders. That's how far down you go. That
Oh,
that
really?
crater's built in there. Yeah, it's really it almost looks like a crater. If you would think what a crater in the moon would be, it's almost like a crater in the moon. It's like somebody dropped a cannonball right in the
That's it.
middle.
That's interesting. I mean, but
But what I'm getting at though is here's another way that bass are really really smart. Of course, bass take the easy road out a lot of times because I have seen bass using a tilapia bed once the tilapia is done with it. Instead of the bass having to take their time to make their bed and fan the bed and get that bed ready, I've seen bass use an already used tilapia bed, which a
right. Well,
tilapia
they
tilapia bed looks nothing like a bass bed, dude. I mean, it
yeah.
looks like you dropped a cannonball right in the middle of it. And I've seen bass using a tilapia bed, and same with carp. I've seen them using a carp bed before.
Well, like here a lot. Um, they will use like old like brim beds and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and that's another thing. Like I say, bass are smart creatures, and if they could find something already made that's ready to rock and roll for them, man,
Mm-hmm.
that they just figure that saves them time from having to build it.
Right. And the thing is, guys, and let's say you don't have any kind of good hard bottom to where you can go and look at it. Go into these marinas and stuff that has like the houseboats and stuff, and just fish around the houseboats, but look at the motors because bass will bed on them motors that are up underneath the water. They will bed up on them motors.
Yeah, and another thing too, if you know you're in a bedding area, and you have a hard time seeing, and a lot of people, and I fall into that category. I mean, my eyes aren't the best. I'm lucky enough where with my Polaroid glasses I could still see, and I could still pick them out and spot them and see pretty good with my Polaroids. But my eyes aren't the best. But there's some people that just plain don't know what. I don't know if they don't know what they're looking for, or they just plain can't see, that good through the, sideways through the water to pick them out. But if you know you're in a bedding area, just pick up a rod that you could throw and cast and just work the area, because if you pull them around beds, even if you don't have to be sight fishing to be catching a big female. And here's the thing
No,
with well, here's the thing with sight fishing too, and I do want to stress this because this is a topic that comes up a lot. As far as it's never. Us as outdoorsmen, we are sportsmen. We do it for the sport, the love of the sport. We do it for the future of the sport. We want to see our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids down the road. We want to see generations to come, be able to enjoy the resources that we enjoy. So,
but that's another reason why we do this podcast to be able to inform
exactly.
people, to be able to get them to where they're wanting to fish because of
Yeah.
maybe some tip that we gave them. So,
And
uh,
here's the thing with sight fishing, and you know, and this is my opinion. My opinion. Now, when there's a lot of money on the line, you know, you do what you have to do. You have to make a living if you're making a living fishing, depending on what level you're fishing at. But I understand that. I am not a big fan of sight fishing in a tournament when you're going to be putting them in the box and taking them back. Okay, I'm not a big fan of that. But if you're out fun fishing, like we do a lot of filming, we do a lot of fun fishing. I'm not competing that much anymore like I used to. Uh, but if you want to, get that, if you see a big female, you want to get a picture of her, get a picture, put her right back in, be as gentle as you can with her. Don't take a lot of time with her. If you get her in the boat, have your buddy have the camera ready, take that picture of you and her, and just set her right back over the side, let her go right back in there and continue
yeah.
protecting. You don't want to keep them out of the water too long. That's what they're doing. They're keeping the predators away from their bed. So, but I'm not a big fan of sight fishing and taking them, you know 20 miles away to a weigh-in.
Yeah.
And I understand from all different angles, but
Well,
that's
you've
my
been on all different angles of it. So,
exactly that's my opinion, and what my that's just an opinion. It's not the right opinion, it's not the wrong opinion, it's the way I do it. So what the way I think doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong for somebody else, but I will say if you are not fishing a tournament and you're just fun fishing, don't take them away from that bed. It doesn't hurt nothing to actually get a quick picture, put her right back. But you don't want to do nothing to hurt the future generation of fishing by pulling fish off beds and taking too long with them or
Right.
even taking them away. Don't put them in the live well and think you're going to get one or two more to take a multiple picture. Put them fish back in. Think of the future of the sport when you're doing that as well. So
Right. So, what's up, Stephen Coleman, man? It's good to see you on here. He did have
man,
he asked, "Is Fletcher coming on?" Stephen, Fletcher is not coming on tonight. Right before we went live, we were we got on the phone with him, and he just had some stuff that
he had some stuff come up that was unexpected last minute that he had to take care of. So nothing serious, just some stuff he had going on at the time. So
yeah.
we're gonna holler back at Fletcher tomorrow, and we're gonna try to get him rescheduled for one of our next upcoming open dates.
Yeah. So he said, "What's up, my brothers?" So, but yeah. But another thing though, Norman, is what I like to do. Um, like during the spawn, I have no problems catching the spawning bass. Um, I I really don't have a problem about boxing them. I prefer not to, but if I'm in a tournament, I don't have a problem with it. Kind of like what you were saying.
Well, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but
Um,
I,
I-
um,
I'm not gonna say that I've never done it because when there's money on the
well, you
line
got to, right,
and you're
right,
making
right.
a living doing it, yeah, I mean it's all part of the game. I'm not gonna hypocrite myself and say that say what I just said and say I've never done it because I have.
Yeah,
But that's where but basically where I'm coming from is if you don't have money on the line, you're just out kicking around, just trying to get some good pictures of some fish. You're just having fun. Think of the long term aspect of what you're doing.
exactly.
It
Right.
doesn't hurt to take them, get a quick picture, put them back. It's not going to really do any damage. But if you're not fishing where
Well,
you
if you take them, that bed is shot. I mean,
that exactly.
it's
So
shot.
so
But
think about that when you're just out fun fishing and you want to get a. It doesn't hurt anything to get a picture, put her right back, be gentle with her. But
yeah, but I've talked to quite a few people about that subject, um, and I talked to Dylan with wishing I was fishing, and he was talking, and pretty much to kind of make a long story short, Norman, is he was telling me that a female, if you catch a female on bed, excuse me, because sometimes like what we were talking about, like let's say like today with our conditions that we had stained water. We could not see anything. What, maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet, the max.
yeah,
And but like let's say we catch a fish that was 8 foot of water that we couldn't see the bed, but so but it was a big old girl, so we put it in the box. We traveled, but and he was explaining to me that the females will not stop spawning until they see a successful spawn.
right.
And kind of the information that he was giving me about that kind of made me like, all right. I mean, he's out on the water, in which I mean, he's out there every day. So he has just his knowledge alone, just being out there, kind of lets me lean more towards
Yeah, and that's
that.
that's a little bit out of the realm of my knowledge.
Right, right. I mean, but and that's what he was saying. So he's like, I have no problems with putting them in the box and traveling because I know and I've seen that they're going to spawn again. I mean,
Yeah,
until they see a successful spawn for
right.
that year.
That's a good point. And I never thought about that, but he might be accurate there. But like I say, I mean that's a little bit out of the realm of
Right, right, right.
my expertise. But yeah, I mean he might be spot on with that too.
So, and just some of the other stuff that he was talking about, it made sense to me. And so, do I know that it's 100% fact? No, but I mean, somebody that's on the water,
It's coming from a good source
it is,
that knows a lot about what he's doing. And
right,
them guys down there at Talking Tackle, they're on it.
yeah,
They are, we've had them on the podcast before. The three of them, Dylan,
yeah,
Greg, and Tanner, and them guys. And I don't want to leave out the fourth. I can't think of
Greg,
his name. Uh,
Greg,
the fourth. No, there was
Greg,
a fourth one there. No, Greg Joe.
Tanner, Greg Tanner.
I'm leaving the fourth one out.
Oh, crap. His nickname's Spanky.
Yeah, there you
Uh,
go. We'll just call him Spanky. But them guys are on it, and they're
yeah,
really
that
good. They're really smart, with what they do too. So I would say that what he's saying is probably true fact.
yeah. I mean, I'd say there has to be some truth to it.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's 100% that all females, if you was to catch them, I guarantee you there has to be something to where you have to catch them at a certain. If you catch them too far into the spawn, I don't know. We don't.
Yeah.
There's no telling. But other than that, I mean, how like I also like fishing the secondary points and stuff though. Like if I know I'm going down into a pocket, I like to start from about the secondary points and go back. And if I don't see nothing to where I'm seeing anything along the banks, I don't see the beds that I'm wanting to see, then I come back to that secondary points and I'm fishing that creek channel because all them sloughs are going to have a creek channel going back there to them. Uh, so from that secondary point, I am uh, I'm fishing. I'm going deeper. I'm fishing that creek channel, fishing any kind of ledges and stuff on that because they may just be setting up to go back up into that pocket.
Yeah. And here's something too, and this blew me away when I seen this, but I was on Eufaula when they were bedding. I can't remember what I was fishing. I think I might have been fishing a Toyo. It's actually a Costa series back then, or Toyota
Yeah,
series today. But I actually was on one of my practice days when I was just out idling around, kind of lucking and doing some graph and stuff like that. Pulled up on a right on the edge of the kind of the side of the river channel,
yeah,
but pulled up on. I was sitting in. I mean, there's some areas on Eufaula that gets really deep. I was sitting on about 80 foot of water,
wow.
and you know, once you get off the channel on Eufaula, if you don't know any too much about that lake, you best be idling from point A to point B when you go off the channel. If you want to fish someplace away from the channel, at least until you really know the area. But I pulled up on a big tree, and the tree probably, I don't even know if it was a cypress or what kind of, I mean, it was cut off about 2 foot below the surface. And but the top of that tree where it was cut off was probably about 4 foot in diameter. And I was sitting in like 80 foot of water where this tree was, and I looked down, and I actually had to do a double take. There was a bass bedding on the top of this big 4 foot tree. I mean, literally
Wow.
right on top of that tree, she was spawning.
Yeah.
I'm like, that kind of blew me away right there. So, but I'm sure if and again, us Florida boys back then, I fished them lakes once a year, and that really blew me away when I seen that because I had no clue that you would actually get a fish to bed in 80 foot of water on the very top of a 4 foot cypress tree or whatever it was that was cut off 2 foot below the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's another place like I look for is stump fields,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and which
Yeah.
we were kind of limited of time today. I mean, we had what 5 hours to
Yeah.
fish,
Yeah.
and we didn't really get to run a lot of the places that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, one of the most exciting times that I've had during the spawn, I had my dad on the boat with me, and I came up on this little stump field, and I was just looking for some spawners, and I found one that was up on this stump, and which it was not. I mean, we were in 4 foot of water, maybe, right?
Man.
And this bass, I mean, she was up on very protective about that stump, and um, I threw I threw some crawls at her and stuff like that, and all she was doing was just picking up the pinchers and just moving it,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
picking it up, not getting it in the mouth,
Yeah.
just moving it and dropping it off the log. As soon as she got over the edge of the log, she was dropping it.
Yeah, Stephen Coleman just said that he actually seen the same thing on the Ohio River on the top of trees and stump fields where they bed.
Yeah, yeah, and so I
Another thing too is
change.
around pylons, like you're saying, stump fields.
Yeah,
They'll
but change when you're fishing it. Uh, change that color to
right,
it because sometimes, well, I'll try to stay natural at first, but then if I cannot get it, I always will go to white. I don't know. I mean, I don't think white really does anything. It just kind of helps you be able to see
well,
if they get that the
yeah,
bait farther down into
yeah.
their mouths
I
than
mean,
what you're
you could
thinking.
see better, but here's the thing. When you throw it, try to get in the sweet spot of the bed. The fish aren't eating the bait to eat the bait. They're taking the bait to move it off,
Yeah,
move it away from the bed. They're not eating it to ingest it. So, I mean, you can pretty much throw if you throw anything, I don't care what it is, and get it around that sweet spot of the bed, that fish is gonna get antsy about it.
yeah,
It doesn't matter what color it is. If it looks like a predator or not, if it's around a sweet spot of the bed and it's moving through there, that fish is going to get really, really antsy and want to get it away from there. But you talk about stump fields and like dock pile and stuff like that. You'll find where the fish will actually build their beds around a stump field. And think about this for a minute. Think about it from the fish's point of view too. When they typically the fish is going to try to build their bed around cover because they're wanting to be hidden as much as possible from
yeah.
predators, from being able to go in there and possibly take eat their eggs or whatever. But when they build it around stump fields or duck pylons, any kind of pylon like that, think about it from the fisher's perspective too. And I've thought about this before. When they build it around a pylon, a stump field, or anything like that, they're basically in the fish's mind. And this is the way I'm thinking. In the fish's mind is they're figuring, now they're only going to have to protect 3/4 or maybe half
Right,
the bed
right.
versus having to protect the 360-degree radius of the bed. So now they could sit there and fend off anything from half the bed because that's nothing's going to be able to come right through that stump or that duck
Ex-
island from the back side of it. So now they're only
exactly.
have to protect a portion of it versus the whole thing. And
Right.
that's my feeling why a lot of times you're going to find them build them around stump stuff like that just because the
Well, we caught them today. Um, that was, I mean, we caught them on cover
Mhm.
to where we had downfalls on dock pylons. We actually had one today, guys, that the dock pylon from the dock was just like it looked like what maybe a 4x4 coming down, and then where they poured a concrete slab around it, it had maybe like what 6 inches around the 4x4, and that bass was on top of the concrete slab up against the 4x4, and so I mean if they can find that hard bottom, that's like what we was talking about earlier though. if you don't have that hard bottom to go into marinas, because they will bed up on them houseboat motors,
Yeah.
and because that's giving them that hard surface, and plus that's knocking 50% of whatever's coming that can harm them. That's knocking 50%, so they don't have to. You'll just see them roaming just the backside of that boat instead of, if they're up on the bank, you're seeing them making a big old circle
Yeah, and the thing about marinas,
around.
it's the thing about marinas too, and where they have a lot of boat docks, boat houses, stuff like that. You're gonna always gonna have a vast amount of bait in that area.
Yeah,
So that's another reason, marinas make a really, really good bedding area for fish, is because of the bait that's around. So when they can pre spawn in the same area, post spawn they have a vast amount of bait that they could feed up on or feed up on when they come off too. So there's
yeah,
always that's another reason that makes the marinas really, really good for bedding areas, just because the bait that usually is around there as well.
yeah. Now I want to talk about something that happened today that was kind of funny.
I think I know where you're going with this.
It was, I mean, it was kind of funny. It would have sucked if one or two things would have happened. But tell us about the catfish, what you was doing with the catfish that you caught, and tell
No,
what kind of bait. First, you got to tell them what kind of bait it was that you had on.
well, I was throwing a hard jerk bait, a stick bait or jerk bait. Uh, the jerk bait is a suspended jerk bait. It typically, you could run, depending on how fast, how slow you work it. You could work it up to about. I mean, I get it to jerk back to the boat up to 8 foot. If you worked it quick enough, or the quicker you work it, the deeper you're going to pull it down. If you let it suspend and and work it slow, you can, and depending on how you hold your rod tip too. But anyway, let's get back to the story. Col- Colin just posted a short on his YouTube channel. So he's sitting back there in the passenger seat taking a little break, and I'm up
I was
there.
eating a pack of crackers, and
We're all the way up at the we're on Chickamauga, but we're at the Nickajack Dam. We're on the Chickamauga side of the Nickajack Dam.
well, it's
We're
actually the Chickamauga Dam.
Chickamauga Dam.
Yeah,
All right, we're going down the Rip Rap. And of course, I'm throwing this hard suspended jerk bait. Well, I tell Colin, I said, hand me my phone. I'll go on to YouTube real quick, on his channel real quick, and give him a watch and a like on it.
he's trying to help a brother out.
Yeah, so I have my rod. Basically, I have about 15 foot of line out with the jerk bait, and I'm gonna tell you the moral of this story here at the end. But anyway, I just basically I'm still on the trolling motor. I still have my foot on the trolling motor, and I'm going pretty slow. I'm not working it too fast down there, but my foot's still on it, so we're actually still moving. I'm just dragging this jerk bait around, dragging the jerk bait, and I have it under the rod tucked under my arm, and the cell phone I have with both hands, and I'm just actually searching. Call him CMB Bassin 1983. Plug out to CMB Bassin. Go subscribe to the channel. But anyway, I'm just about to get on his channel. Next thing I know, my rod about rips out from under my arm. I just catch it with my hand pulled back. It's about a 4.5, 5 pound catfish. But more of that story is, how many times do we're throwing a hard jerk bait, and the way they're designed to be worked is, you always want to work them with slack line, especially the suspended, but working with slack line, but you got to, and you working with different cadences till you find out exactly what the fish want that day. I've been out there before where the fish only wanted it, bat, 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 bat really quick, or bat, bat, pause, let it kind of float up, pause, pop up. So it just depends on the day, on how the fish actually want that bait being worked. By just dragging it behind the boat, just like a crankbait. And I was thinking about that. I made a comment to Colin. Everybody works jerkbait the way they're designed to be worked. Basically just pop it, pop it, pop it, or a couple pops in a row and pause. However you work it, but you jerk it. It's
Yeah,
called a jerkbait. But if you take and make a long cast with a jerkbait and just slow roll that thing below the surface, she's going to actually work very similar to a crankbait without getting the depth that you're going to get a crankbait. Okay,
Yeah.
so it has a nice wobble coming back, just
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be a tight. It's a tight
a
wobble.
tight wobble, just like it's a fish swimming down the edge of the bank or down. Why doesn't more people actually take a jerk bait and just, because that proved it right there. I'm just dragging this jerk bait, steady
Yeah,
drag.
I say though
Well,
that there has to be. There's more people. There are people out there
there's
doing
probably
that.
people who does it, but you don't see it a lot.
Mhm.
You don't see it a lot. Everybody that throws
No.
a jerk bait, they're
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I got to thinking, you know what? That goes back to experimenting different. Just because a bait's designed to work one way doesn't mean you can't catch them working it a totally different way than the bait's actually designed to work.
Yeah. So Stephen Coleman said, "What's the water temp on chick?" We seen it
It was
from
65.
65 to 67 was the range that we were
Actually, a
seeing.
little bit warmer than I thought it was going to be once we got out there.
Yeah.
So I think, and you know a little bit better than I do, being that you've been here pretty much all your life, Colin. But typically, I think you were saying around 60 is prime.
Well, that's usually what when they people around here say that the spawn starts is they're going to start, but I've seen them start, Norman, from 56, 57 degrees. I've seen them up
Yeah,
starting to fan the beds and all that,
and that's
but I've
when
seen them to where they don't start until 65
yeah.
to 66, sixty
Yeah,
seven
and
degrees.
when we got out there this morning, that's what I kind of a little bit caught me off. I don't want to say a little bit by surprise, but I kind of was a little bit surprised that the water temperature was warmer than I thought it was going to be at this point.
Yeah.
I was thinking before we excuse me before we launched, I was thinking it's going to be about 60. I was kind of surprised it was at 65, but in Florida, now I don't know what the water temps are in Florida now. I know they've been getting a little bit warmer weather here of late, but typically, the prime number, the number in Florida typically is 68.
Yeah.
Is what prime for bed and fish is usually right in around 68 degrees.
Yeah. So Jen Mew says, "Hey fellas, how you doing, my cornhusker friend?" So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Go
Steve,
Gators, go Gators,
shut up.
go Gators.
So Stephen
Hey,
Coleman
you can
says,
take the boy out of Florida, but you're never going to take Florida out of the boy, dude.
so
You could have them Tennessee Vols. Give
um,
me my Florida Gators and my Buccaneers.
uh, I'll say something, but I can't. We shouldn't say it on here. But so Stephen Coleman says, try working the crankbait like a jerkbait. I have done that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
excuse me.
I've worked the crankbaits. I've worked the crankbaits and jerkbaits too. Just so uh, you know, kind of mix up my retrieve when they're not really when you're not
Right.
having any success. Just steady cranking it. I've actually done that before. You never really know how they want it till you get out there and start kind of experimenting. If you don't get, here's the thing, like with Steven said, with like crankbaits, they're designed to steady roll. Same thing. Why if you're not getting bit, just start altering the way you're doing it because one of fish could want it one way and not the other.
Yeah.
But you could go out the very next day, fish still be in the same area and be totally different. They might want it
Yeah.
completely the opposite of the way they wanted it the first day. So it kind of changed it up. It's always day to day, kind of, and that goes to like when you're throwing a spinner bait, when you're throwing a bladed jig, anything like that. Until you start getting bit, kind of vary how you're working the bait because they
Yeah.
don't want it one way, not the other. But here's the thing, and me being a guide and also term angler back in the day, having co-anglers on the back of the boat or fishing FLW stuff like that, I see it a lot where I have a co-angler or a client on the back of the boat or what have you catch a fish, and first thing I ask him is how did you catch that fish? What were you doing? How fast were you winding it? What was the cover you caught it out of?
Yeah.
And they look at me like I, I don't
I don't
know.
know. Yeah. Hey.
Don't fish with blinders on. Make
Yeah.
Pay attention because that's big. especially
Yeah,
you always want to try to duplicate. And I've always said before, one fish is luck, two fish is a pattern. If you catch two fish out of one out of the same type of stuff, the same retrieve, the whole 9 yards, you got something building.
yeah. So let's kind of get off of this subject for just a second, because I mean we've been on here for 50 minutes already, just talking about bed and fish. But let's talk. There's one thing that I want to do, um, and then I want to talk about one thing that we're going to be doing here soon. Okay. Um, One thing that I want to do is crap. I got it out in my boat. Is anybody that has the Bubba scales,
Love
the
that.
Pro, okay, the Pro series of the Bubba scales, because it will Bluetooth and it will allow you um, to kind of like to where, like, let's say Norman and I are wanting to fish uh, and do like a little tournament and whatever, and Jen wants to get in from Nebraska. If she has a Bubba Scales, then we can Bluetooth it together to where we're fishing in Chattanooga, she's fishing in Nebraska, and we can compete against each other. So, is there any of y'all that would be interested in possibly doing like a little fun tournament with Norman and I? With you'll have to have the Bubba scale. So, and the things that the Bubba scales does is also, I mean, it keeps a running total of all fish for the day. It keeps a total of the biggest bag that you've had.
And
You can,
a shout out to Bubba too for hooking myself and Colin up at Red Crest. They basically hooked us up with two scales.
yeah,
But this is a Bubba scale right here. I don't have the battery in it turned on, but that's
yeah,
and this is the same scale that you'll see during the Bass Pro Tour that they weigh all the fish. The boat officials and the marshals are weighing uh,
yeah.
on the Bass Pro Tour.
Well, I mean, even Steven, if you had the Bubba scales, or if you have one or whatever, if you get them, we could do tournaments with you. I was just saying that,
Yeah,
and he said myself and Captain Dean Herdman. Hey, we don't care. We just want to fish and just be able to. And I think that if that, I think, I mean, because right now we got 900 people on, and so I think that's going to be able to help, because we've had people ask us to say, "Hey, we want to come out and go fishing with you, but we're in Ohio or we're in wherever, and but we'd like to go fishing with y'all." This is one way that
yeah,
Norman and I have been able to see to where we can all uh, be able to fish together against
yeah.
each other, and still be able to have fun and stuff like that. So
Exactly, and just like on the Bass Pro Tour, if just for example myself and Colin up here in Tennessee is fishing against somebody in Indiana with another guy in Ohio and another guy in Florida, we could all compete the
yeah,
same time, and they will actually be able to see what we have. We'll be able to see what they have,
yeah, live,
all in real time
yeah,
as we're fishing. So it's something fun that me and Colin's been thinking of doing. We're having like, and it's just a little fun tournament. Nothing on the line except for bragging rights.
yeah,
But doing something like that where it doesn't matter where you are, we could hold a just a little fun gathering tournament
yeah,
using the bubble scale, but you have to have a bubble scale in order to do it, though. So,
right,
but they're awesome scale, and there's so many other ways you could use these as well for the five fish limit, and the way Colin's talking, where you could actually with the app the whole 9 yards. So it's really a sweet scale.
yeah. Um, Steve wants to know if they can use shiners. Steve, we'll have to talk to you about that. Because if we say yes, then we're gonna have to be able to have a buddy of ours come on and fish with us. In
Well, Steve uses shiners. He's going to be jerking about eights and nines like on a regular basis. So yeah, but
he said, "Tell him I'm kidding."
uh,
Hey, we we've got a friend, Steve, that he is a hammer.
yeah,
I mean,
he's one of
he
my
can catch them artificial or he can catch them live bait. But I'll just say like this: just this year, Steven, he has caught over 30 double digits just
yeah.
this
That's
since January.
all on check, all
Yeah,
on check. He's one of the up in this area. I'm not going to say anywhere, but because there's some really good shiner guides out there, and Captain Steven falls right into that category too. Is one of the greats as far as shiner guides in his area, but as far as in this area on Chickamauga, he is
yeah,
as far as this particular area, he is the best shiner guide that I mean I know in this
yeah.
area. So
So
I don't want to say everywhere because there's a lot of great shiner guys, like I say, including Steve. But in for this area, he is the best. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I
no,
think
he's
what was his big? I think 14 something. Uh,
he here and
he had
at the
like
beginning of the year he had 14.6 was his biggest.
and with that 14.6, didn't he have like close to a 50 pound bag with it?
Oh yeah, he had a 52-pound bag.
Yeah, with five.
But the 14 was not caught on a shiner. It was
Yeah,
caught on a small swim bait.
right.
Just him kind of doing like what you was doing today with
Yeah,
the jerk bait.
yeah.
He had clients out at the front of the boat. They were fishing, and he was going down a ledge, and
He just holds it on.
he was just dragging.
Yeah.
He said I was just dragging it, and so Steven said, "Wow, what a big bag!" But he was just dragging it down this ledge, and he seen a log on his depth finder, knew that he was coming up on it, and he felt it. He thought it was the log, and then he looked at the line, and the line was going out towards the channel.
Yeah.
He's like, "The log don't swim like that." But guys, I mean, if you're interested in doing that, holler at us because I mean Norman and I are out on the water
Yeah.
all the time.
We'd love to get
Um,
something set up like that, just for
yeah,
fun to do.
yeah. I mean, even if we could set up a tournament just of like the Deck Talk podcast, call it like the Deck Talk podcast tournament, to where we can have people from all over. If I mean, especially if you're just going to go out anyways. I mean, and who knows? We might by the time that happens and stuff. I mean, we might have it to where we do like a $20 buy-in.
Yeah.
My dad said, "Does Norman get to count drums?" No,
Hell yeah.
no. No, I even like that. Everybody's ragging on Norman.
Them drum love me.
So, but yeah, guys. Hey, but Norman, real quick, after talking about that, I mean, because that's going to be pretty cool in a way that we can interact with our. Hey, Steven, man,
Appreciate
we'll
it.
holler at you
Good
here
luck.
later, man.
Yep.
And
Thanks,
so,
Steven.
but that I think that would be very cool to be able to
Yeah.
do. Um, but Norman, let's talk about what we're going to be doing here at the beginning of May.
Yeah. Um, you know, last year we done a uh, in conjunction with one of our partners, Steve Dowell and Bruiser Bates. We done the a Bruiser Challenge.
Yeah,
Uh, Basically, it's a head-to-head competition with myself and Colin, only using the Bruiser Bait products. Uh, Steve Dial with Bruiser Bait basically handpicked 5 baits, sent them down to us, and anyway, to make a long story short, I don't want to harp too much on the tournament last year, but it was a real huge success. So we're getting ready right now. We're gonna do the Bruiser Bait Challenge 2. We're we're not going to go, and I don't want to announce kind of how we're going to do it until it actually happens. But we're changing it up a little bit. We're basically, it's going to be a match fishing, match head to head with myself and Colin. We're going to be out of the one boat. But that's about all I'm going to tell you as far as a little bit of change ups we're making. We are making some change ups as far as the bait selection, stuff like that. But again, Bruiser Bait, they're coming through for us this year and hooking us up
Again,
and partnering with us. They're already a partner of the Deck Talk podcast, but they're partnering with us for the Bruiser Challenge once again, to make this thing bigger and better than it was last year. And it ended up being really really huge last year. I
yeah.
got a lot of very positive comments on the Bruiser Challenge last year. So we're doing it again. So you look forward to that. Keep posted, everybody, because we'll have more information to come on information on the event as well. But I think the first I don't know what the exact date. The first Friday in May is when we're actually going to film the event. So we're going to actually film the tournament. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's actually not probably going to be out till like the beginning of June.
Yeah, we're going to try to have it done by the time, definitely by the time we go to
Oh,
ICAST.
it's gonna be definitely done before ICAST.
Yeah. So,
What the fishing the tournament part of it's really fun. I mean, that's fun. We get out there and we film it and the whole 9 yards, and it is. And here's the thing with the Bruiser Challenge. It's all in fun, and it's trying to, uh, we're basically going to be using bruiser baits. So we're showing everybody what these bruiser baits will do, not only in Florida, which are freaking hammers in Florida, everything, the bruiser bait lineup, but they work all over the United States. So
yeah.
there's not one area that only one bait's going to work. They work everywhere.
Oh,
But
yeah. We've,
here's the thing, and this year is going to be a little bit better, I think. Because instead of us doing it out of two separate boats, we're in one boat. It's head to head, one boat. It's going to be a coin flip. We're going to have four different quarters, and we're each going to have turns operating the boat.
right, twice. Right.
Yeah, twice. But here's the thing: you take two guys like myself and Colin going head to head on the same boat, and you're talking two guys that
There's
hate
going to be strategic
yeah,
playing on this. I just
two
let you
two
know.
guys that hate losing. I don't like losing. I don't like losing. Now I know Colin doesn't like losing, especially when it comes to fishing. So when you got two guys that just refuse to lose, it's gonna be a fun deal. There's gonna be a lot of funny moments in the tournament as well, being that we're both on the same boat, so the camaraderie and the going back and forth is going to be a little bit better this year because we're actually on the same boat going head to head versus two different boats. So we'll be able to talk back and forth and give it to each other as we're fishing. So it's definitely going to be a fun deal. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it, just like we did last year. But I think it's going to be amped up a little bit this year, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. So, Norman, we've been on here an hour and 3 minutes,
Yeah, this
and
I'll take your part this time. This skinny boy's getting hungry.
so, but guys, we want to apologize again though for not being able to get Fletcher on here. He just had something come up that he
Yeah,
couldn't help, and uh, he told us he was like, man, I could come on just for a few minutes, and he said, but I wouldn't be doing y'all
yeah.
justice and
And,
stuff,
and
and
we're gonna talk to Fletcher tomorrow. We're actually gonna get him rescheduled tomorrow for an upcoming one of our next event, upcoming dates that we actually have open.
yeah.
So we'll definitely get him back on here. We'll let everybody know plenty ahead of time when he's going to be back on, but he's going to be rescheduled tomorrow for an upcoming date. So it's
Yeah.
all
So, but again, guys, if y'all are interested in that Bubba tournament, just message Norman and myself
yeah,
because that would be something that we would thoroughly enjoy, and we could set up a day to where even if it's just one of y'all say, "Hey, we want to do this Bubba tournament," we'll film it and we'll figure out kind of the details and stuff of what what it has to be and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And here's the thing too. If you're an angler that likes having a scale with you every time you hit the lake, you never know when you're going to catch that fish that you really want to get a weight on.
Yeah,
I highly, both myself and Colin highly recommend getting the Bubba scale. You don't even have to be a tournament angler, but if you're actually a tournament angler and use a scale to call, or
they are the most accurate scales
yeah,
that
highly,
is out there. Period.
we and that is one of the main reasons why they are the sponsor, basically the skill they use for the Bass Pro Tour, because fishing at that level with that much money on the line between them guys, you have to have one of the most accurate the most accurate skill out there, which Bubba is. So guys, definitely we highly recommend it. You don't even have to be a tournament angler, you just like having a scale with you to weigh that monster bass when you catch it, or that monster fish, whatever kind of fish it is. Highly
Yeah,
recommend that Bubba scale. You guys got to get out there and check it out. But yeah, like Colin says, holler at us if you're interested in doing something like that. And we'd love to do some kind of a fun little deal. Ought to
yeah,
be fun to do.
yeah. So, guys, we're gonna get off here. Thank you for watching, and
And next week's episode, remember, same bat time, same bat channel. Next Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
who we got?
We have Brandon Card is going to be on with us.
Brandon Card.
Elite
This guy is a good buddy of
Yep.
ours,
Elite
and
Series Pro Brandon Card is going to be with us next week, and I was kind of following once we got back out of the water today. I was kind of following along a little bit. I think when I actually turned the St. John's off today, I think he was right there, like at the top on day one. He was like right there within the top 20, I think today. So
yeah,
on the St. John's, so he's a daggum hammer on the
yeah.
Elite Series. So look forward to
And
that.
I mean, and he was in the top six in the Super Six in the
Yeah,
Classic.
yeah. He
So
actually made the right there, the Super Six in the Classic too. So he is a daggum right hammer, but a good buddy of ours. But we're excited about having him on next week.
yeah. So guys, hope y'all have a blessed
Yeah,
day and a blessed week, and hope to see you out on the
yeah.
water. If not, we'll see you here next week, same time, same place.
Tech Talk Podcast presented by iBass 360. And remember, you guys always want to live the passion.
See you guys.